Hi, this is Notzizka, and I'm making this video to demonstrate how you can play a damage-based Barbarian over the standardized sword and board build with as little gear as possible. A lot of people have asked me how I play this build, and they seem to think that I have exceptionally high DPS or very good gear, where I really don't. I don't play my softcore characters very often, so I built this character with very little money. People seem to think that you need a ton of resists to get anywhere in this game, so I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to kill Inferno Belial within the enrage timer. I'm not going to be using any shout, or I'm not going to be using resist shout or any defensive shout. So as you can see, I have very low resists, and I'll show you the build that I'm going to be using, and I'll explain why it works so well. First, you have the basic rage generator. If you have no rage, this is your fallback. It's also a great skill to use with packs that tend to kite a lot, such as Fallen Shaman or Bees in Act 2. Whirlwind is your main damage, and you're going to be using that 99% of the time. And the rune I use is Hurricane, just so I can move as quickly as possible, which I'll explain why we want that shortly. Battle Rage with Into the Fray for increased damage and crit, and a key point of this build, which is the 15 extra rage from critical hits. Sprint with Run Like the Wind. Increased movement speed is always really nice, and the second key point of this build, which is the tornadoes that are going to be dropped behind you while you're sprinting, and those tornadoes will drop while you're whirlwinding, so those abilities work really well together, and the criticals from both whirlwind and sprint will help build your rage, which is how you maintain infinite whirlwind and sprint. Overpower I like to use. It's really nice when you have not very much gear like I do. The critical hit is great, and you can keep that buff up almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time, with the landing a critical hit having lowering the chance, or lowering the cooldown, I'm sorry. And finally, Wrath of the Berserker with the Thrive on Chaos rune, and you can keep this up infinitely as well. As long as you keep whirlwinding, or while you are frenzying, if you just continue to spam Battle Rage and Sprint to eat Rage, and Frenzy will build enough that you will keep Wrath of the Berserker up 100% of the time. That's a really useful build for things like Inferno Diablo, and with a build like that you can drop Whirlwind and you can change Sprint to Marathon or any of the other runes that you prefer, and pick up, instead of Whirlwind, pick up your Battle Shout for your resists. All of my passives are damage passives. Weapons Master for obvious reasons, Ruthless for the crit and critical hit damage, and Animosity I'm using because of the Fury generation. And I'll go over the stats that you're going to want to look for, starting with the weapons. My main hand is really only there for its base damage and the life on hit it has. It's not very good weapon. It has very low life on hit, and the vitality is a nice bonus as well, while the offhand is again not a very strong weapon. It's a dagger for the fast attack speed with high life on hit and bonus critical hit damage, and bonus hit damage is very strong for this build because you crit so often that it's basically just like straight extra damage for your build. I recommend using for your main hand a hammer, and that goes back to the bonus crit you get from Weapons Master, so that's just gonna boost your crit, and you want as much crit as you can possibly get in this build. And about half of my gear is just straight defensive. This has no other point other than the vitality, armor, and resist. Same with this helmet is not defensive at all. It's pretty much just garbage. Can be replaced with a good blue or yellow, like half decent yellow item for very little money. Again, straight defensive, just a blue item. And for your gloves, you want crit and defensive. The crit being the most important part. Bracers, the crit is very important, and resist if you can pick them up. Again, these aren't really that great. I found these on my own, so you could actually pick up on the auction house bracers that aren't even this good, and this build would still work just as well. The rings, crit hit chance again with life on hit, not even very much, and a very weak bull Kathos, which is for the critical hit damage, and it has really bad life on hit, but every bit counts, and a little bit of strength for extra damage. The amulet, again, is just for life on hit and bonus stats. Everything else, it doesn't really matter. As defensive as you want, or as you can get. One more important note about your gear, though, is your boots. You're going to want movement speed on them. The faster you move, the more tornadoes you're going to drop, and as I've explained, that's very important to this build. And you can pick up a full set of gear similar to this one for 3 million or less. I built this gear set with far less than 3 million gold, and I'm going to show you how effective this build can be really quick. And how it works. So you want to get your battle rage up as soon as possible, and as you see that you just keep your sprint up and whirlwind, and the rage just generates on its own. If you're low on rage and you don't want to engage, or you're low on health and you want to stack life on hit, you can just run around like this and you'll regen rage and health. And as you can see, overpower comes off cooldown very quickly. And you just want to spin in a circular motion, so you drop your tornadoes. And it's the same exact thing here. Just run around and start whirlwinding in the same pattern to drop the tornadoes. And as you can see, I'm not really doing much damage, but I'm hitting very, very often. So, and this build just gets stronger and stronger with gear, so it works effectively with no gear and just constantly gets better. So you can play a Barbarian without a Storm Shield, without Helm of Command or a Justice Lantern or any of those really amazing high-ticket items that everybody seems to think are a necessity for going, you know, anywhere past Act 1. This build, I have killed every boss in the game on Inferno with ease. As you see, I'm just going back and forth here, and as soon as I take any damage, I instantly regen it. Just keeping my sprint battle rage up, using overpower on cooldown. Try to get a few hits in here, and then you just go back to it. And the reason you go back and forth like this is you can see the tornadoes dropping behind me. And I'm getting about 5 or 6 up at once. Each one of those is generating rage and doing damage for me. Rage, damage, and healing. And it just turns, you know, what a lot of people think is a difficult fight into a complete cakewalk. This is a joke. And again, this is without resist shout. You could easily drop Overpower from this build, or if you were just wanting to do bosses or something, you could even drop Frenzy. But that makes just starting off a lot harder. Like you can see right now I have no rage, but that's the fight. That's how the build works. So I hope this helps somebody. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.